there's this habit that we're strengthening of reaching outward for opinions and thoughts and creativity almost instinctively before we ask ourselves. You're listening to Say It Anyway, the podcast for people who know they're meant for more and are done holding back. I'm Maggie Marcus, and here we talk courage, self-trust, and what it takes to lead yourself, even when it scares the hell out of you. So over the weekend, I went to visit my cousin. She lives about 2 hours away. And we're hanging out, we're talking, we go get some sushi, some sake, some beer. And she asks me, so, like, who's your celebrity crush right now? And I was like, I just blanked out. I'm like, I don't know. My celebrity crush. I don't have one. And I immediately just like start scanning in my brain. I'm like, for any name, I'm like, who have I seen recently? Like, what shows? Has Amelia, my 14-year-old stepdaughter, has she mentioned anyone? I'm like, I don't have an answer for this. And then I'm like, I just spit out Ryan Reynolds. Like, I don't know why I said that. Like, no hate to him, but that's not my celebrity crush. And I'm like, why did I say that? And she's like, oh, interesting. And I'm like, I don't know why I said that. Later, I was like, I love Heath Ledger. R.I.P. Love you. But like, I legit didn't have a name, and I'm just like scanning, and I noticed that pattern in me. That's like it comes from like an old wound, right? Where I'm like, I don't have an answer, and I panic, and I just try to think of the first thing that comes to my mind because I don't know, having an answer is better than not having an answer, I guess. But there's this wound of mine from like this old pattern where I really learned to edit myself. And I would want to come up with the quote unquote right answer or the cool answer. Like, I don't want to be lame and say the wrong thing. And so that kind of happened to me, right? Like that little panic, and I recognized it. And, this is stuff that I've definitely like been aware of and worked on so much over the years. And I talk a lot now about authentic expression, not being afraid to be yourself and allow yourself to be seen as you are for who you are. But, those old wounds and patterns, they still creep in every now and then. So I'm thinking about it, and it kind of hit on something that I've been also talking about and thinking about, which is I feel like there's like this crisis of like original thinking and this fear of really putting our authentic opinion and our authentic thoughts out there into the world, and how we're very much losing that nowadays, especially with the rise of AI and all of the social media stuff, and like just how everyone's sort of feeling like they're saying the same stuff. People are regurgitating the same ideas. And so I was just thinking about reflecting back on my life about all the ways in which I've sort of prioritized image and feeding the ego and wanting to appear impressive and cool and come across a certain way. And I prioritize approval over authenticity. And noticing where I've done that, right? Not just in the blanking out when someone asks me for an answer about something that's meant to be mine, my opinion and my thought. But that happens, too. Like when someone, like if you've done this, right? Like when someone asks you a question and you blank out and you might mini panic like I do. Or you, when you're in a group and someone asks a question and everyone gets quiet and kind of looks around and they're like waiting to see what everybody else is going to say first before they say their opinion, right? Or you're like, I don't know, what do you think? And you like want to get their take. So then you can edit yours or adjust yours to be more agreeable or more likable. And I've just noticed that a lot. And even with things like social media, like, when you like watch a reel and immediately go into the comment section, which I get it. I love the comment section. It's the best part. Like, people are really funny. But that we do that, and we often take in and absorb other people's thoughts and opinions before we've had a chance to really understand our own or form our own. And the same with movies and TV shows. Like, when you notice that, like, when you finish a movie or a TV show, you instantly like go into the reviews and you want to see what everybody else thought about it. What's everybody else's opinions before you've really had a chance to sit and process it and ask for your own opinion about it. It's becoming so much easier to outsource our thinking, and just default to the popular opinion, or to like ask, I used to really, last year, I used to use chat a lot more in terms of like, asking it to like brainstorm me ideas for like content and things like that, or talking points. And I noticed how much I was doing that, and I didn't like it. I did not like that. I still do use chat and all that stuff, but now it's like, wait, I have my ideas and I write those down and I reflect and I think for myself, and then I can go into chat and be like, organize this, right? But before, I was like I was just, tell me 10 ideas or whatever for content. Like, tell me, brainstorm, think for me, right? And I've definitely moved away from that completely, because I want to cultivate my own thinking muscle and my own creativity muscle, because I know it's in there. I mean, before chat existed, I used to do that. So it's definitely there. But yeah, it's just crazy, like how normal I feel like it is to hear nowadays. Like, I talked to chat and it told me that, or I was talking to Claude, or whatever variation of it. It's like, it's normal to like hear that stuff now. I read an article recently on just this, right? How to be more of an original thinker, and it really just cracked something open in me, because it really put into words what I'd been feeling. How I talk a lot about authenticity and leading with your thoughts and expressing yourself, and how many of us have learned to edit ourselves to be more palatable to other people. How we change and adapt and suppress parts of ourselves in order to perform, to put on an image or persona that we feel other people are going to be accepting of. And it's even in those small moments, like being asked about who my celebrity crush is. Like, that's not even that important if I don't have an answer to that. But your brain goes and tries to find the most appropriate answer, quote unquote appropriate. It's sad, I think, to me a little bit, that we're losing what I think makes us special as people and as humans, like our own perspective on our own thinking, our thoughts, and how there's this habit that we're strengthening of reaching outward for opinions and thoughts and creativity almost instinctively before we ask ourselves, that kind of performance, or that need to present as something else, has become really ingrained. I used to think that, and this is why I love this article, because it mentioned this, because I used to think that original thinking, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself to have original, insightful, valuable thoughts. And I spend a lot of time reflecting, and sometimes even overthinking things, because I want to really figure out what I think. And that's hard sometimes. And what this article said that I really loved was that original thinking doesn't happen in a vacuum. Your a lot of times I would sit in a room and I just want ideas to strike me, inspiration to strike me. And I would think, I need to have these like original thoughts. How are other people cultivating this? And, why isn't it happening for me? And we think that maybe we either have interesting thoughts or we don't. We're either deep or we're not, like as if it's a personality trait. And I think that we all have the capability to cultivate deep thinking, interesting thoughts. And I don't know if it's laziness. Maybe because thinking and putting effort into like asking yourself some probing, deeper questions, it does take effort. And I think a lot of us are just freaking tired. Like we're just exhausted. There's a lot we're getting hit with, a lot of things that we're doing. And I get that. But what I think it is it's deeper than that. I think it is. I think having a real raw opinion is very vulnerable. That's why you see so many people, more people who consume content than create it. It's not easy to have your own thoughts and share that. It really opens us up to being wrong and being criticized and judged and misunderstood, and therefore feeling some type of way that we don't want to feel, like feeling stupid or feeling shame or feeling lonely. I think it's easier and it's a lot safer to take someone else's thoughts that's already been validated or run through the mill or liked and agreed with online than to actually share your own. Because also that way too, you have an out. Like borrowing someone else's ideas, you can be like, you can share that and be like, if someone disagrees or argues with you, be like, oh yeah, well, I just kind of like read that somewhere. I don't know if that's true. It wasn't me. It was someone else. And it kind of gives you an out. But when it's yours and you claim that as yours, you don't really have anywhere to hide. And that's scary because if somebody disagrees or it's an unpopular opinion that you said, now you've got to sit with that. And that's what we're really running from, is like not wanting to feel that and be that vulnerable. But in doing that, in avoiding that, I should say, we're really weakening our muscle of thinking. What makes us special? What, like as a species, like that's literally like what we have that elevates us over every other species, is like our ability to sit consciously and reflect and have emotional intelligence and think through things. And so I think we're really losing our ability to think for ourselves and therefore trust ourselves. Like we really, when we are looking to other people for opinions or for validation or for ideas and thoughts, we really begin to doubt ourselves when we have a thought. It's like we got to immediately like run it by something, run it through chat, run it by another person. Or it's really easy to just dismiss our thought because it might be a little different or it's not popular opinion. And I think when we are also doing this, outsourcing our thinking, it really costs us our ability to think on our feet and to make decisions on the spot and to trust those decisions, to trust our instincts, because we're so used to looking outside of ourselves for answers. It makes it really hard for us to hear our own inner voice. And your inner voice and your intuition, that's your guide. That's your inner pull. Like not being able to hear that or silencing that in favor of somebody else who's not living your life. Like, that's sad to me. It's sad. And I think it really cuts you off from yourself. And so many of us want to be authentic and we want to be original and express ourselves freely, yet we disconnect from ourselves and we give other people's opinions and thoughts and ideas more weight than our own. In fact, we don't even give ourselves a chance to cultivate our own because we have this instinct of immediately checking other people's reviews, comments, captions, chat now. Like, we disconnect from ourselves and our inner knowing and our knowledge. What I've come to see, that original thinking, it's not going to happen in a vacuum. Like, it doesn't need to be me sitting in a freaking room by myself, like waiting for inspiration to strike me. It actually happens through integration, through synthesis. Okay. Like, when you read something, you hear something, you experience something, and then you actually ask yourself, what do I actually think about this? Run it through your own lens, your experiences, your own worldview. That's where the nuance lives, right? Like, that's where your perspective gets formed. And when I read that in the article, I was like, oh shit, yeah. Like, that hit me. Of course, that makes sense, right? Like, I might not just be able to sit there and wait for inspiration to strike, but I can still cultivate original thinking by asking, okay, what I just read, how has that been true in my life? How has it not been true? Where have I seen that show up? Does that make sense to me, given my experiences and my worldview? How might that be seen a different way? Just asking yourself those questions. What do I really think about this, given my experience, and who I am in the world? And that's where you start to evolve ideas and you see different angles, and then you can bring nuance to ideas. And that's how we can, like, expand off each other instead of just mimicking each other. And I think that's pretty cool. I just nerd out on that thought of that, because, like, to me, that's where we're building and we're growing with each other, rather than just like copying and absorbing other people's thoughts, because then we're just going to all be carbon copies. How boring is that? It's so freaking boring. Like, when we all think of the same shit, I don't want that. I want to sit with people. I want to be in the company of people who have fresh takes and challenge me and give me another point of view. I think most of us do like that. We want that. I think that's why some of us go on social media sometimes, is like we like when we're taught something, when we're shown something and we didn't think about it in that way. So we actually do like that, yet we don't give ourselves the space or the permission to cultivate that within ourselves and then contribute that outward. And like I said earlier, I know life's, and it can be hard, and you already got a lot on your plate. You're like, it's so much easier sometimes to just absorb rather than be conscious and think for yourself. And while I get that, it also saddens me, but because I think that we are straying away from discomfort, right? It's just more comfortable. It's easier to passively take on other people's opinions and ideas. Most of us don't want to sit with the discomfort of being in like a half-baked idea or like uncertain thought, like there's like the struggle that comes with that you're not really sure what you think yet, and there's like this like space while you're trying to figure it out. And I think that that's the discomfort that people don't want to be in. They don't want to be in the uncertainty. They don't want to be in the question. They want an answer, even if it's not their answer. And so that's where I want to kind of challenge a little bit, and where I've been challenging myself is like being able to sit in the struggle and the discomfort of forming your own thoughts and opinions. That's actually the process of it. And that's where clarity comes from, is being willing to figure out what you think, like talking it out. I often will, like after I read that article, I sat and I was like, okay, I took my voice recorder out on my phone, my memos, and I'm like, all right, what do I think? And at first I didn't really know what to say, and in like a few seconds, and then I just start talking. And by the end of it, I was like, oh, this has been so helpful. I'm so glad I pushed through that initial discomfort. And this brought me a lot of clarity, and I was able to really consider my thoughts on this topic and work through them to now, have an opinion that's mine. And that's how you figure it out. You work through that. You write through it. You talk through it. That's how you process. That's how your angle, your perspective is formed. Even me right now, I am talking through a lot of this, and sometimes I battle myself, because as I'm saying it, I'm wondering inside, I'm like, is what I'm saying clear? Is what I'm saying making sense? Am I, is this authentic? Like, yes, it is. It really is, and that's why I ramble sometimes, or I, say, or or whatever. And that's just real. That's me working through what I'm trying to say and my own thoughts. And most people don't want to struggle through that because they just want to appear polished. And that was me for a really long time. But now I find this podcast so healing, because this is a lot of where my ideas get fleshed out. Thank you for listening. But this to me is part of course, I process and I flesh out a lot of stuff before I come on and record. But when in the process of recording, other things come up. And so I even live work through those in my as I talk. And that's real. And I love that. I love that is real. Sometimes I worry that I'm not coming across as articulate or flowing as well as I'd like. But I'm also okay with that, because this makes me better at articulating myself. And I think that's vulnerable. And I think sharing thoughts that are still forming, that's what a lot of us are afraid to do. But and this is my hope, that as we do that, as we share unpolished, raw, half-baked ideas and opinions, then maybe that's what people really connect with, not the polished version. Yeah. There's an old part of me that like fights that, because I think I've got to come across polished and to be impressive. But yeah, I don't. I hope. Yeah. I was just thinking too, like I went to the movies with Amelia and James the other night, and we watched Hail Mary. It was a good movie. I really liked it. And because I've been thinking a lot about this stuff, like towards the end of the movie, I was like, I just got conscious. I kind of like was like checked in with myself, and I was like, what do I think about this? What have I liked this movie? What have I liked? And why? Or like what, just what do I think about it? And when we walked out of the theater, Amelia was like, what'd you guys think? And the old version of me would have done what I mentioned earlier. Stayed quiet, maybe waited for them to say their opinions before I shared my thoughts. But I didn't. I did not. I went first and I immediately shared my thoughts and shared my perspective and shared my opinion, and I didn't hold back. And as I was doing it, I remember the feeling. I felt stronger in myself. Like I was backing myself up. And I just got emotional saying that because I'm like, that is like the work, that's the muscle working, like that is so healing for me, because as much as I've worked on this stuff over the years, that still shows up sometimes. Now you're just more aware. You notice the ways in which those patterns where you would have normally held back, that you would have stayed quiet, you would have, suppressed a little bit or watered yourself down. And it makes me emotional because when I don't do that, when I just express, like, that's who I want to be. That's who I am. So I really am. And it's beautiful to me because I'm like, that's me backing myself up. That's me growing stronger in who I am. That's me not being afraid that even if my opinion is not mirrored or considered favorable, that's okay, because I know who I am and I know what I think, and my ego is not going to crumble because of that. So, for you, before you scroll, before you ask, chat, or check in with someone else, pause and ask yourself, what do I think? What do I think? Put space between the impulse to check social or reviews or chat to seek validation from others. Put a space between that just for a little bit, and run it through your own lens, your own experiences. Does it resonate? Does it not? Like, just run it through your own worldview and see what comes up. And be willing to sit in the discomfort of not fully knowing yet maybe what you think. That's okay. It's okay. That's not a problem. It's really not. That's the process. If you're someone who really wants to be an original thinker, and authentically express yourself, like, that's the process. You got to be willing to, like, go through that a little bit to cultivate your own thinking. I think it's a practice, and don't be afraid to talk it out, or write it out. I find that externalizing helps me internalize, like externalizing, like in terms of like audio journaling or writing, or honestly just talking out loud, period, helps me a lot process and understand my thoughts better, because it can be overwhelming sometimes. But I really just want to encourage you. You don't need to have a fully formed thought to share it. It just has to be yours. And if that's hard right now, I get it, because it's a practice, but I think also spending time with yourself, like with no distractions, with no phones, people, even books, music, none of that. It's just being with yourself and just kind of like getting to know yourself better. Like, if you really want to like understand who you are and authentically express yourself, you got to be willing to sit and know yourself. Most people avoid that part. But when you do that, when you sit and you know yourself, you better understand yourself. You better understand and accept yourself, and learn to love yourself. Then you can feel more confident in sharing yourself. And in sharing yourself, you're going to cultivate deeper fulfillment. You're going to feel better because there's freedom in that. That feels good. Everybody wants to have the freedom to be themselves. And also you're going to cultivate better connections with people based on like real, based on real, based on real opinions, real shit, like real you, not just regurgitated you. See, I'm not the most articulate sometimes, but you know what? I just keep going. You know, we want authenticity. We say we want people to be real. And so we got to do it. We got to be the ones to do that. We can't wait for everybody else to go first. So I want you to start questioning, what do I think? Like, if you could take away one thing from this podcast, it's like learning to ask yourself more consciously, what do I think? What is my opinion? What are my ideas? I want you to feel brave enough to go there within yourself, and then brave enough to share that. Go say it anyway. Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If this episode hit home, spread the love. Maybe share it with a friend or drop a comment. I'd love to know what landed for you. And remember, your voice matters. Whatever you're holding back, say it anyway.